For those that don't know, Judge Aileen Cannon, during the documents investigation, made a couple of rulings blatantly in the president's favor, essentially saying that because the former president's favor, essentially saying that because Donald Trump was a former president, he should be treated differently under the law. And she got knocked down by her judicial bosses, whatever that structure is, the people just above her in Florida. They essentially said to her, number one, you didn't have jurisdiction here. You shouldn't have chimed in. Number two, your ruling is nonsensical. There's nothing in the law to suggest that you could have arrived at that decision in an honest way. For context, she really does not have the qualifications for the job she was given. She's unusually young. She is bizarrely inexperienced. But it's a Donald Trump appointee, so you know that her experience had nothing to do with it. It was entirely based on how much she praised the Führer. So, when it came time for this part of the trial, not a different criminal proceeding, but now the investigation has advanced to the point where charges are filed, arraignment, yada, yada, yada. Her name came up. And the law says if the public could reasonably doubt her ability to judge this fairly, a judge shall recuse themselves. I've heard folks say, well, so far, in this part of the trial, she hasn't done anything wrong. And I would agree with that. Since this newest time that her name came up in the draw, she didn't do anything wrong. But she already did make two, not one, two terrible judgments. Two terrible rulings that got overturned and showed her lack of judgment, at least in regards to Donald Trump, in this very investigation. I understand that there's strategy involved here, and I'm not gonna jump fully into the we got to get rid of Aileen Cannon because of this, that, or the other thing vote just yet, despite what we're about to play from Mr. Brian Tyler Cohen. But I do want to point out that she should have, based upon the reading of the law, as I understand it, as Mr. Michael Popak read it to me with Mr. Ben Meiselas and all of us when they did a stream about it, she should have recused herself immediately. So, if she was going to be fair about this, the opportunity has already come and gone. And so if she has been doing nothing objectionable except for not recusing herself so far, what that tells me is she's keeping, as Popak would say, she's keeping her powder dry. She knows she won't get away with it right now. And so she will do her corrupt whatever at the end. Want to talk about wasting time? How about you have the entire trial and then it turns out it was useless because you were talking to somebody who is a MAGA adherent who should not be a judge of anything because they cannot judge reality. Here is Brian Tyler Cohen talking about Jack Smith's dwindling opportunities to formally request Aileen Cannon have nothing further to do with the case. It's worth considering. Even I'm not necessarily in the boat of saying we should definitely do it. Let's hear what the man has to say, because I believe there's an appearance by the one and only Glenn Knock 'em Out Kirshner. Kirshner.
So, Glenn, we've got some news here. Trump's federal trial regarding the stolen classified documents has been scheduled for August 14th. Now, what's the likelihood that the trial actually starts on that date?
Slim to none, and none is fading fast.
Ha.
Now, it's important to know that the federal law, the Speedy Trial Act, provides that somebody should be taken to trial within 70 days of the date they are arraigned, and that would put it sometime in August. So I guess I'm not shocked that Judge Cannon set a trial date that is within that 70-day window, because that's what the law provides. However, there are so many escape hatches, so many different reasons and opportunities for parties to continue the case, to convince the judge that they can't try it that quickly, that I would not bet $1 of my own money that we're going to see a Trump trial in August.
Well, Glenn, to that point, Judge Aileen Cannon ordered all pretrial motions by July 24th. So once we have an idea of what all those pretrial motions are going to be that will be filed by Trump and his team, could we then have a better understanding of what the actual trial date would be? So, for example, if we know that the Trump team is going to file 10 pretrial motions, are we able to look at that and say, okay, we can get these litigated in 2 months, and so let's plan for a mid-October trial, for example?
You know, there's not an easy answer to that question, but I think the best answer is it's probably not that much of a gauge, because you can file 100 motions in limine. Each one could be resolved in 5 minutes. It could involve a discrete ruling from the judge regarding, for example, whether a certain piece of evidence is admissible or not, and they could move on to the next motion. However, they could file 2, 3, 4 really dense, complex legal motions that will take lots of testimony to resolve. One motion could end up taking a week. So I don't think it will be much of a gauge. It will tell us something about how long it will take to resolve all the motions once we see the entire universe of motions filed by the party, but it's not going to tell us all that much about timing.
I trust that answer because it was annoyingly nuanced and unsatisfactory. That tells me it's probably dead on. Great question, though, from Brian Tyler Cohen. Hadn't even considered that.
Could the Trump team add more pretrial motions after that July 24th deadline, or is that deadline a hard and fast deadline in terms of the motions that will be introduced?
Yeah, great question. They can only with leave of the court. So only if they show good cause why they were unable to meet with the original motions deadline. But let me add that original motions deadline that has been set, I suspect will slide some once the parties get in court, get in front of Judge Aileen Cannon, and probably, among other things, try to get this case designated as a complex case. That's a term of art in the law and in the rules of procedure. If the judge agrees that this is a complex case, then all speedy trial deadlines are kind of off, and then the whole timetable becomes extended. So
it's a I'm doing Kirshner dirty. He looks like a Van Gogh painting. Who did the Scream? I don't remember. Still, but we're gonna keep it. Sorry, brother. I know it's a term of art, but just for the record, this is not a terribly complex case. This is, in fact, as open and shut it would appear, just based on what we know. And we don't even know everything the Justice Department knows. Just based on what we know, this is not a terribly complex case. Did he have permission to have the documents? Yes or no? No. Did he return the documents when asked? Yes or no? No. Did he lie about it? Yes or no? Yes. Did he admit to lying about it? On camera, multiple times. In TV interviews. This week. I think last week. In recordings. In a book. Yes. Pretty simple case. That said, the right to a speedy trial is supposed to be the defendant's right. That's what they're talking about. The defendant's right. So if, for example, you live in the world, you and I live in, not what Donald Trump lives in, and bail is set at what is to you an obscenely high amount of money. say $500,000, you got to come up with 10% of it. If you don't have $50,000 just sitting around, you have to sit in jail until that trial comes by. Even if you're found eventually to be innocent, you're still going to have to do a couple of months in jail. That's the justice system you and I live under. So, in other words, it leans towards the defendant as to whether or not they can have a longer time until the trial. That said, hear me out. I do think Aileen Cannon is corrupt. Hands down, she's demonstrated she's corrupt. I have reason to doubt, reasonable reason to doubt her judgment. In this case, in all cases, frankly, but in this case in particular. And even having said that, I don't think it guarantees that we're going to get just bad decision after bad decision from her. What I would worry about, and what this is where I would caution against optimism with Aileen Cannon. What I would worry about is that she doesn't show her hand up front. She gets rough with Trump. Ooh. By which I mean holds him to the standards that we would expect anybody else to do. That's how the courts get rough with rich people, is they treat them like normal people. Ooh, perish the thought. Like gross regulars. Until the end. And she says, I'm tossing the whole thing out. That's what I would worry about. So if she does one or two additional things that aren't just blatantly in praise of Donald Trump, I wouldn't. All the commentators who have generally legal backgrounds and therefore really want to support the justice system as it is, because there is I say there's a priest-like calling for the news. It's true. A lot of news people feel that. It's the same thing with the law, though. It's like criticizing Catholicism to a priest. A lot of these folks feel like you're attacking them when you point out a flaw in the way our system of justice works. And a lot of these folks, they will see Aileen Cannon, I don't know how to say it, can't really decide. Let's stick with Aileen for now. When they see Aileen Cannon not doing something blatantly in praise of Trump, they're going to say, "See, it's all fine. This is how it's supposed to work. You got to have faith in our system." No, you do not, and no, you should not, and you certainly should not take it as a sign that she's on the up and up. If she's strategic, she's smart enough to be a judge. She's smart enough to have passed the bar exam at some point, because I think she was a lawyer before that. Then she's smart enough to know how to sabotage this properly. But let's see what Kirshner has to say. Take anything he says over what I say 9 out of 10 times.
Kind of off, and then the whole timetable becomes extended. So I think it's good that right up front, Aileen Cannon is putting everybody on notice that she's going to,
including how he pronounces her name, Aileen. Okay.
Run a tight procedural ship, but I think we're going to see some of those deadlines begin to slide.
Now, obviously, with these pretrial motions, the goal for Trump and the Trump team is to delay. And we've spoken about this before, how the farther out Trump can push this case, the more likely it is that he'll be able to finish his run for president, hopefully win the presidency himself, and then use the levers of government to basically absolve himself of all guilt or to insulate himself from any accountability. So Trump's goal here is to delay. Is there any limit to how much Trump could delay by virtue of these pretrial motions, or is the sky the limit here?
The only limit is Judge Aileen Cannon and her willingness to be played by Donald Trump and give him the delay he seeks. Now, for the time being, it sure looks like we're going to be stuck with Judge Aileen Cannon. I doubt she's going to recuse herself, given that she is now entering orders in the case. I also
Let's hope she's into denial play. And if you get that joke, shut up.
Am less confident that Jack Smith might file a motion to remove her from the case, given that, she is now setting deadlines, and it would almost feel like sour grapes if a motion to kick her off the case came in now from the prosecutors. So I actually think that window may have closed. So assuming we are stuck with Judge Aileen Cannon and some of the baggage she will bring as the presiding judge here, hopefully this first order setting.
Sorry, I gotta address that. It would almost feel like sour grapes. It would almost be improper. Whoa, it would almost offend. If you say Donald Trump doesn't have 8-pack abs, MAGA will accuse you of being a socialist, communist, Marxist, space alien. Who are you worried about offending? Here's the crazy thing. Is it legal? Okay. Then it's in your book of options. Is this a normal case? Would it normally be done? That's out the window, because this is not a normal case. We're deciding now how presidents are treated. Every step of this, how former presidents are treated. Every step of this, we are deciding in court. So, hey, MAGA, I know it ain't going to be easy to reach you. But here's something you can toss at your MAGA community members when this comes up that I'd like you to consider, because it'll throw them off for a second. It'll make them actually think for a moment, and we need more of that. Every step of this is deciding how former presidents will be treated. So if we let Donald Trump get away with all these kinds of things, that means if you get Joe Biden in the same position, say when he's out of office, if you want to go after him on this same case, if you truly believe what he did is the same thing, more or less, as what Trump did, and you have a hope that you'll get your own corrupt Justice Department because you believe that the Biden DOJ is to blame, you get your own in there, and you get Biden in a trial. Well, everything that happens to Trump is now precedent. So this is how Biden will be treated. So you have to ask yourself, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, did Trump do this or not in the court? That's ultimately what matters. It should be what matters, certainly. Is he guilty or is he not guilty? Where is the proper venue for determining that? It's a court of law. And if you think Trump is not guilty and Biden is guilty, you should ask yourself if you want Biden to be able to dance around like this. Do you want him getting all these freebies? You shouldn't. And by the way, he's appointed a lot of judges.
These deadlines, very early, very quick deadlines, is a sign of things to come, that she is going to insist that this case be tried promptly and efficiently, without a lot of delay and without a lot of shenanigans. Frankly, I think that will be good for the American people.
Yeah, I think it would be good too. I do want to stress, though, he's incorrect there. And I'm not saying this based off of my legal expertise, of which I acknowledge he has more. My legal expertise comes from more of a knowledge of how long you have to sit in court, which is all day, when you're waiting to get judged for a misdemeanor, which you absolutely did, and you're just there to tell the court, I'm way too poor to pay for this. Can you please charge me less? I'm sorry, I didn't strap my truck down properly. Ooh, I shouldn't have been parked on the curb. Oh, 34-year-olds don't normally hold on to the back of the truck and try to skateboard and then run over their neighbor's bushes. Look, we all live different lives. The point is, I'm talking about this from my perspective of knowing people, meeting a lot of them. And a sign that she's being responsible now just means she knows now, like all Republicans, now she knows there might be consequences if she's irresponsible. And if she plays it right, she can do the maximum amount of damage later. And she has demonstrated, at least we have reason to believe that she would do this. She's demonstrated a bias towards this particular person who gave her the job she has. Why is it even allowed that somebody who appointed you can be somebody you make a ruling on? That is not right. Shouldn't exist. Should not be allowed. And I really don't think that we should take a couple of good judgments from her, even good, a couple of standard judgments from her, as anything other than her covering her ass early on.
And for our democracy, because if she can actually force this case to trial in, let's say, late 2023 or very early 2024, resolve it before the primaries, resolve it obviously before November 2024, that will be a good thing, and that will kind of help clear the landscape for what hopefully will then be a legitimate campaign for the presidency.
To that point on scheduling, there was reporting that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis had asked the chief judge of the courthouse down in Georgia not to schedule in-person trials or hearings for the weeks of August 7th and August 14th. That would suggest that we may see an arraignment on one of those weeks. Now, I realize, based on what you said, that the likelihood is pretty much zero that we'll see this federal case go to trial on August 14th. But if it happens that there is a conflict between a state prosecution and a federal prosecution, which one takes priority, or are all prosecutions created equally?
Yeah, so first of all, the feds love to Bigfoot the states, and I wish that wasn't the case, because it's only about 1 to 2% of the criminal cases in the United States that are handled in the federal courts, with 98, 99% of the prosecutions handled in state courts. But, the feds always think they're the biggest, baddest prosecutor on the block. But here's what I'll say. First of all, I was heartened by Fani Willis announcing that the federal indictment will have absolutely no impact on her case. That being said, I would fully expect that DA Willis and prosecutor special counsel Jack Smith and his team will coordinate on timing and on scheduling of court hearings. But here's the thing. If Fani Willis is in a position to drop indictments publicly in August, that will only require one brief hearing for Donald Trump to attend, an arraignment hearing. And, he's an old hand at that now. He's been arraigned in New York. He's been arraigned in Florida.
Right.
He can get in and out of the Georgia courthouse in Atlanta. He can be arraigned, and he can refocus his attention on the federal prosecution that hopefully will be up and running against him.
All right.
As always, I love hearing from Glenn Kirshner. Big fan of Brian Tyler Cohen and everything he puts out. Even a fan of the guy's business model. He's a stand-up dude. I'll tell you, what gives me hope is things like the fact that Midas Touch, Brian Tyler Cohen, Majority Report, even the Young Turks, Kyle Kalinske, these folks are out there genuinely rivaling the equivalent of talk radio in the 90s. But as opposed to hammering people with this obscene, nonsensical talking points, you're getting genuine debate. You're getting genuine discussion. And to that, I like disagreeing with these folks and offering contrasting opinions. Such as, I don't think we should, based on what I have seen in politics, what I've seen in my familiarity with the law and more my familiarity with scumbaggery. I don't think we should take any sign that Aileen Cannon, in this window of time where there could be consequences, treating Trump normally as a huge relief. How is that functional to you? I'm just saying, be prepared for it, and don't let it dishearten you if this whole documents case goes south. Take heart in the fact that we have state level, thank God, state level cases. If you're in one of the fake elector states, and this will be in the VOD when I upload it, if you're in one of the fake elector states, pester your attorney general to open up their own investigation into the fake electors. Take heart in the fact that Donald Trump was so blatantly corrupt, so blatantly criminal in his behavior, that he is going to be unable to rely on all of these trials, all of these trials being concluded after 2024, and all of these trials winding up with Trump favorable judges. It's a statistical impossibility. And also, take heart in the fact that some of the shows you watch disagree with each other as ladies, gentlemen, and formal people of nondescript gender. That's a sign that you're taking in information that is thought about critically, and that we will not become MAGA, and we will not end up with somebody like Trump ever leading us. And let's hope somebody like Trump never leads the United States, or any country, ever again. Let's see what the wicked community has to say.